but The Rock is cooking.
Recording live from three locations. This is Past the Rock. I'm Patrick, and as always, I'm joined by two great men, Caesar, aka LCs.
Speaking of three, if the Mavs don't make fucking threes, I'm going to the AAC for Game 4 and just jumping off the Raptors to send a message.
We'll buy them more rest time in between games.
That's right.
And Jacob, aka Bethke.
Here to celebrate ball with all the ball watchers, both living and not. But I just wanted to give my new thing is clips. And so this one just has an awkward transition.
Because they don't understand buckets. They don't understand triple threat, 3-level scoring. They don't understand, hand in your face, jab, pump fake, step back, swish. They don't understand that. The calculators don't tell them what that is.
They don't. The calculator does not tell them what that is.
It doesn't. And that clip comes up way better here than when I used to use it in small formats and text messaging, where it kind of looked inappropriate. Not gonna lie. So I was glad to bust that back out. Of course, we have to start here in a very solemn tone, because our first story isn't very happy, but it depends on how you look at it. Somebody who's got to live a long, long time, finally ended that long journey we call life. Jerry West passed away today at 86. I believe it was today.
The logo.
Yeah,
I heard about it today at least. It
was either late last night or earlier in the morning. Whatever, it's same difference, right? Mr. West is very famous for a lot of things. Is obviously being the logo that you see here on my cap, you see here on this jersey, you see on just about everything, to which he's received 0 royalties, and to which the NBA has never necessarily officially given him that credit, although they're about to this year, kind of. We'll get into that as we wrap it up. But maybe they'll give him more credit now. Who knows? But
did the CIA kill Jerry West so he couldn't make $1 on the
logo? we don't have all the answers here. But obviously lived a very happy life. The last time I'd seen him do anything was we actually talked about this a little bit before, but Paul George's podcast, and he did about an hour and a half, 2 hours with those guys, and it was pretty awesome to hear him still be that sharp and that on with it. But there was moments there where I was just like, damn, this used to be like one of the most on people I've ever heard talk about basketball, and he's kind of getting lost in the conversation. Obviously, he's with guys so much younger than him, from a whole different world than him. But it was pretty fun there.
Do you think Jerry West was saying hezzy a lot?
No, actually. And as I was looking at some of the celebratory tweets today, not in a negative way, Bill Simmons might have celebrated today, but everyone else was mourning. So Bill Simmons might have pulled an all-time Bill Simmons goof today, but that's a different story for a different day.
I missed that. Can't wait to go check that out.
No, he tweeted out the Bob Cousy thing that came out today about Bob Cousy.
Yeah.
But he did. I guess he hadn't seen the Jerry West situation, so it just came out looking really funny and awkward.
Oh, that's awkward.
And then whenever he tried to save face, he just ended up promoting his book on Twitter, and it was just always funny when he does that. Anyway, so some of the things I wanted to talk about with Jerry West is he was kind of the OG maniac. I think that's one of the first places I wanted to start. Is Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, yada, 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 the killer's mentality, all this stuff that we associate with basketball, maybe more than we do other sports. And I don't want to just limit it, but I definitely feel like we do a lot here.
It's definitely more of a thing in basketball where we talk about it because it's the only sport where you're 20% of your team.
Yeah.
Outside of maybe hockey, but, it's a little different.
Right, exactly. And so essentially the maniac style that, everything is important, but everything is second to basketball. There is no success in second, all that kind of stuff comes from Jerry West. I really feel like Bill Russell, obviously, he had a different thing he was playing against and playing for that motivated him in a similar direction. But I think for Jerry, it was more about basketball. whereas obviously Bill was breaking down barriers in a lot of other ways. So there, not to say that there isn't a bunch of sad stuff. Actually, this book right here, West by West, My Charmed, Tormented Life, talks not only about the basketball shortcomings, but the life stuff. It's not too pretty. Definitely raised in that older generation where his parents would have been like, we worked our asses off for everything. We fucking will beat you with a switch for not doing all the chores kind of shit, different world. Okay. And then some of that's about his playing days. So Jerry fell short to Bill Russell Celtics very, very often. 1969, he and Elgin Baylor should have completed what would have been one of the best teams of all times title run. Instead, the Russell Celtics, aided by a stupid Lakers owner at the time. Boy, has times not changed. Owners might, but not necessarily that fact. And they end up winning that. Of course, he ends up getting the Finals MVP, to which he's been pissed about, up until his deathbed, I'm sure. Won the 1972 title, which was a part of what some people consider the best basketball team ever because they were the one who did the 33 straight games, then won the title thing. But Jerry West actually doesn't like that team. Didn't even think he was that good that year. Has never really looked at the 72 title the way that some look at the 11 Dirk title, right? He is not necessarily did not show that same love. It's also important to note that he was the architect to 3 Laker dynasties. And I know what you're thinking. How would you be an architect of 3 different Laker dynasties? But he helped the first one because Dr. Buss needed a coach and a confidant. He quit as the coach, and he told him not to draft Magic Johnson. Luckily, they did that part, did not draft Sidney Moncrief. But then after that, Magic ended up really leaning on Jerry quite a bit. And so did the coaches that came in, most notably Pat Riley, who had a pretty nice heartfelt message sent out today as well, because essentially his career doesn't necessarily start without Jerry West's belief in him as a coach. And that's all kind of depicted in Winning Time if y'all watch the first 2 seasons of the HBO show. Then years later, after Pat Riley leaves and he's got to rebuild the whole Lakers, he gets Shaq and Kobe on the same week. A little bit of that is to an old CBA. A little bit of that is to the old way that rookies could kind of be moved around and the great Agent Arm Tellem maneuvering Kobe into the perfect position for the Los Angeles Lakers to take. And then the third one, the one that people are probably like, how? He hasn't been involved with the Lakers since the Shaq and Kobe days directly. Like, how is – well, you forgot that he was a part of the Memphis Grizzlies for quite a bit. And what he did was he infested quite a bit of Grizzly people, and most notably, I think his name was Chris Wallace. I don't know if I'm just getting him mixed up with the reporter, but his last name was Wallace for sure, I'm pretty sure. And that's the man who was in charge of the Grizzlies when they decided to trade Pau Gasol to the Lakers for very, very little at the time. Of course, they ended up getting Marc Gasol, so people don't necessarily look at that one as bad. And he also convinced Kobe not to jump ship in 2008 and go to the Clippers, which is, wow, that's a whole different world. He also was an executive advisor to the Warriors dynasty, famously stood his ground on the Klay Thompson for Kevin Love trade. He helped Steve Ballmer revitalize the Clippers to some extent. He essentially just told Steve Ballmer to get all the good players. I don't know
Have you heard
how
of
much
Kawhi Leonard?
These good players, you should get them from the
There's
Lakers
a guy named James Harden.
Yes, and look, honestly, I don't want to make this into the big Lakers stories that have been coming out. We don't care about their head coach; they don't currently have one. We don't care about some of the other stuff they've got going on. But this is an unfortunate day.
What about Shams versus Woj?
That is a mildly interesting story for sourcing. The only thing I think is interesting is, are the Lakers going to somehow get away with this whole thing not looking as bad because of that beef? I don't know. I'm interested to see how that plays
Depends
out.
on who they hire and how they do.
And that's where it's interesting. So I don't want to get into Lakers stuff, but we have to. It's Jerry West, right? And that's where it's a little sad. Today they release a very lackluster statement compared to all the rest of the outpouring of love for Jerry West. Most notably, Jerry West has been very critical of the last decade or so of the Los Angeles Lakers. And most notably, I believe, when the Clippers brought him back on board, he had wanted to jump back on board with the Lakers, and Jeannie essentially just didn't want to re-engage that sort of situation. So it's a very frustrating one, I think, for all of basketball history when you look at everybody but the Lakers franchise going above and beyond. So thankfully, the NBA will have its chance tonight. I'm sure there will be stuff before the game tips off here in a little bit. Everybody in the world will have a chance to talk about it. There's only one other story I wanted to bring up before we tie this thing up. But there is a very notable stat that I don't know if will be repeated in any other sport that I wanted to bring up to you guys. He is not a Hall of Famer once, not a Hall of Famer twice, a Hall of Famer thrice. At least he will be by the end of this season. In 1980, he was inducted as a player.
Player, coach, and executive, or player, coach, and
never a good coach, actually.
Oh,
never.
Player,
he realized he was not a good coach.
And what is the thing that Jerry Jones is in for?
Contributor.
Yeah, contributor.
And he will be a contributor. Okay. That's why I wanted to say. So he's the logo. Yeah. I just told you guys. So one of the things I forgot to mention, there's not basically NBA players that don't have some relationship with Jerry West. This guy knew everybody who came in and out of the NBA for decades. Terrence Mann is out here posting things about how this guy saved me from, kept me on basketball rosters. You know what I mean? There's things about Shaq. I think Kobe was his proudest one. I mean, you look at there was a thing going around from the 75 anniversary where he's pointing at the space where Kobe would have been in the great Laker portrait. Kobe wore the 44 jersey after the first title, I think, in 2000. But it was one of those things to him that I just think that as a contributor, it means a lot. But it's interesting because obviously this is the biggest one, or the biggest financial one for the NBA specifically. And it is interesting to see now that he's passed on. Does the estate have anything to say that he didn't? I am very interested in that. So
does the Hall of Fame recognize that he's the logo since it's not an NBA Hall of Fame?
That's it. Well, that's where maybe this changes what they end up showing.
So this year is the contributor one?
Yes, this year's contributor. So I don't know. We'll find out together this year. That's kind of funny. I forget when they do Hall of Fame, but I need to put that in my calendar. Either way. Yeah, so that was it. And then there is one last thing I wanted to do, a little video time. This one presented with a little backstory, very small video. JJ Redick, of course, decided to take the plumbers conversation to the mainstream. I forget if this is 2 years ago, I believe. And Jerry West had a response back to his era being considered to have been played against plumbers.
And I know JJ just a little bit. He's a very smart kid and everything. But tell me what his career looked like. What did he do that determined games? He averaged 12 points a game in the league.
He should have probably left out to determine games or whatever, because obviously the role of someone just shooting threes can help determine a game a lot. But
yeah, JJ's definitely facts. You can nitpick it. It was just funny that he basically came out and did that. There's also the story that
he's got receipts, dude. He's allowed to.
I think it was only about a year ago that he gave us that other quote, the dog quote. I wasn't a dog. I was a wolf. I hate dogs. Like, that's just some West Virginian ass thing to think of too. But either way, rest in peace to the legend. It's a weird thing to see in basketball. It's happened a lot more. Obviously, Mr. Walton just passed away. Mr. Russell a year or so before that. So obviously this is bound to happen. Basketball is such a young sport. This is sort of a new deal.
We're gonna start hitting. Yeah, we started seeing it with celebrities like 10-ish years ago. Where all of a sudden,
exactly.
Because all of a sudden there were more different kinds of celebrities, and now basketball legends are in there.
Mm-hmm. So it's a good and bad thing, especially in this situation where you can't argue anyone squeezed more out of a basketball lifetime than Jerry West. That goes without being said. But let's get a little cheerier. With the only way we know how, with a little. Dallas Mavericks basketball.
Listen, I don't know how much cheerier when it's 0-2 right now.
You don't want to talk about
It's
clip-
0-2.
You don't want to talk about FX's clipped.
No.
No.
We can definitely tease
With,
it out. How many episodes have they already dropped?
The
first
third
of
one
all?
just came out with Morpheus
Oh,
as
fuck.
Doc Rivers.
Did you hear the stuff about him today being like, I don't watch sports. Did I send that? Or did y'all see
Lawrence
it?
Fishburne said that.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Lawrence Fishburne was like, luckily he's still with us, so I reached out to Doc.
Yeah, he probably doesn't have time. Like, you know,
Oh, no,
he's
I'm
a busy
sorry.
man.
I love when people do shit like that because it's like, I forget how many actors are just nerdy theater kids at the end of the day, and then they do shit like that, and I'm like,
Yeah.
right, got you. That's why you're one of the goods.
But anyways, kind of, I just quick review before we get into the finals. Watch it, but don't have any expectations because it's wild as hell. But just watch it; it's entertaining. I think if it came out and we didn't know any of the characters, whatever. Let's move on. It's fun.
Okay.
It's fun time.
Fair enough. Well, we do have to talk about a Patrick to start this off, but not you today. And this is our guy Pablo Torre coming out with the real hip hop journalism that we all know and love, long form investigation into kind of niche topics, sometimes not so niche. And I thought this one was actually not in that category at all. I thought this was actually very relevant, interesting information as a whole. Now, we're not going to dive into it as much as they did. It gets very political, gets very global politic-y. So I'm gonna let everybody else do their part and watch that video. That's a plug for it. Put it in the comments. You know what I mean?
But we are going to at least get to the part that is relevant, something we
We're
recently
gonna-
talked
yes.
about. So that's
We're
where
gonna-
it matters mostly to us.
Yes, but unfortunately, this is a little bit of raining on the parade of the Dallas fans hosting their first finals game since 2011. But and with the O2 thing, you know, it's not necessarily the best time for this to have come out, but it's interesting nonetheless. So we shall talk about it. Even if the Mavericks weren't here, I would still want to have this conversation. So I called this Patrick the Puppet. Not you, obviously, Patrick, but Patrick Dumont.
Oh yeah,
The puppet, and with all due respect, in charge of the Dallas Mavericks, that we now understand to be more or less a puppet.
quite literally a figurehead.
Quite literally a figurehead. How do we know this, you might say? How could you infer so much with knowing so little? Well, thankfully, Pablo Torre gave us quite a bit of information to work with. MIRIAM ADELSON, of course, is the main owner of the team. She is a name I was actually familiar with, but did not put together as who she was until this week when I think it was a little bit before this. I think it was Dallas, Texas TV posted something about her campaign contributions. And then I was like, oh, fuck, that lady. Because, of course, her husband, what's his name? Sheldon Adelson is a figure who I had heard his name quite a bit over the last
line
decade.
where they're talking about it. He called himself Sheldon Adelson III because at one point he was the third richest man in America or the world. I wasn't sure. I don't remember. But
in the world, I did make a note of that myself because I was impressed.
that's a very funny. That is definitely like a rapper line or something. They would.
No doubt about it.
Awesome.
It's important to note that this investigation essentially summarized their family and their wealth. The money was made on, what was it, an early computer company, turns the computer company into the Sands Hotel in Vegas. Sands Hotel eventually becomes the Venetian. The Venetian is one of the, biggest, like, it's basically sort of what Jerry World is to the modern NFL stadium, where it's like, look what we're doing, everything is bigger and better, and it's got art in it. It's like everything is more than just a thing now. And so that was what the Venetian essentially did for Vegas. Of course, it's also gone on to make a bigger Vegas market in Asia. Forget where exactly, somewhere in China, I think.
Yeah, they've been expanding globally for sure for casinos
for a very long time. They've got, at one point during their peak, their earnings were $1 million an hour, is what one of the sources said in there, which is just silly.
Beyond silly.
Also, dude, the Mavericks.
Yeah, but
Mavericks fans.
Remember, Kim and Kanye, they got $1 million a minute off the Kimoji app. So
yeah, well,
We
$1 million a
did.
minute for a day,
we got $1
maybe.
million a minute. But even for a day, that's exponentially just.
That's still impressive, but um, yeah. So long story short here, we find out that this isn't a family that's kept up its name and being a part of the lavish lifestyles of the celebrities. Instead, they've been very into philanthropy and very into politics. Um, some could argue those are similar things. I'm just telling you that legally people consider those differently, but you can have your own opinion on that. The NBA essentially has, when this sell went down, they were like, you know what, Mark, we do want you to put someone with more money into our league. We would love those checks. However, this lady is so far on the right side of politics that our sometimes like,
Can you imagine being so far to the right of the other 30, 29
because I was gonna,
governors?
that's what I was gonna say, because you're talking about a league that many have called leftist propaganda before. I am not calling that. I want that to record be stated. But many people have called the NBA leftist propaganda in the past and will continue to do so in the future, I'm sure.
People just have the definition of words has just slipped away
It
hard.
does. It does slip away. But that is essentially why.
Now, if you want to say they're a pandering multi-billion-dollar corporation, yeah,
they definitely pander. Some believe they pander harder than others. I suppose.
And I have to assume that at least like 30 to 40% of the people who work somewhere in the executive office believe some of that.
Yeah, at least on paper. Miriam Adelson, obviously, we don't need to get into too much of it. Like I said, she's very far right. We've talked about it. The league is more or less on the left side of American politics on almost all occasions, except for money, usually, actually. So no surprise that changed here.
Except affordable housing.
Yeah, well, I didn't say the players. I said the NBA is the league. The players, that's a different story. Actually, I think Bam Adebayo recently got bullied into being a registered Democrat because people could find that shit online. Anyway, it was the internet's a funny place.
What's dumb is that you could just easily just be like, nope, F everybody, and then don't register for anything. But
and he might have just wanted a better paper trail than what was previously existing.
Yeah, but it probably looks way worse when you like unsubscribe.
Yeah, a little bit. I think it is interesting too because there's a very few women owners in the NBA. You would think that
are there any governor like majority?
There is. There are two.
Minnesota? No.
There's two, but one of them is essentially a technicality, and that's not to be rude to her. It's true. Her brother, obviously, the late Paul Allen died.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I was like,
now who's in charge of the team is there. The same can be said about
who do they
the New Orleans Pelicans.
Wait, who did the Allens own?
They own the Blazers.
Oh, okay.
So the Pelicans also are owned by what's the family?
And they're governed.
Benson, something
whatever.
Benson.
Yeah, the Bensons. Gail Benson. Gail Benson owns it because whatever his name Benson bought it.
Lady Governor.
Yeah, and so, but essentially that's what Miriam Adelson is. She's taken over the wealth of her late husband, who passed away only a couple years ago too. So all of this to say, interesting story, interesting decision made by the league's part. This also has a lot of ties to do with gambling in Texas that are coming down the pipeline because of Miriam Adelson. So don't need to get into the geopolitics too crazy. If I missed anything, then okay. I guess I missed the most important part. She is an Israeli-born person, or Palestinian-born Israeli, predates Israel as we know it today,
as a nation state.
And so she is very passionate about Israel. She is very passionate about however you want to talk. Let's just say she's pro-Israel as fuck.
Yeah.
So how this relates to whatever we were talking about, I can't remember if we've already mentioned this, but because the NBA has decided she can't be the face, we were wondering why.
Patrick Dumont.
Why this guy we've never heard of is holding the trophy? Why not Mark? The real question is why Mark wasn't even up there because he's still a part owner.
Again, I'm thinking Mark decided that he should allow this new ownership group the opportunity. Miriam obviously not less. I mean, essentially being blackballed. Like, I'm just interested in if the Mavericks win the title, is she allowed then? Now that Pablo's broken the story, is it the cat just out of the bag? Is it fine? Because like the Duvosses have owned the fucking Magic for the whole entire existence of the Orlando Magic. I think that might not be true, but for the majority of it. So what are we talking about? Like we've been down this road a billion times. It's funny to me. Like I'm not necessarily a fan of Miriam Adelson. But I am surprised that they put their foot down to this extent. And I know, and I understand
it's a real
her political
half-assed
influence.
extent. Like it's pretty obvious,
Yeah,
like it's not.
It's still notable though, because especially if she's not allowed to participate in any of the trophy stuff, any of the all the rest of what could come if
She just
Mavericks
gets to
win.
collect checks.
That's I mean, I'm impressed more that she said yes to that situation. But I'm guessing the opportunity
that
was
kind of makes sense though. I mean, they
Yeah.
mostly talked about she doesn't really do the public life thing anyway, so
that's true. And that's very true. Maybe it's as simple as that.
it's just
But
business.
for some, it's funny that she doesn't do it in this regard because let's say in her other world in which she is, where
every other person in her position does.
When she's because she's very important at other places when people are wearing red hats but not with yellow lettering on them.
USA just tied Brazil.
Go Landon Donovan.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh my God.
I believe.
What about Josie Altidore? They kicked him off the team years ago.
A long time ago, yeah.
I believe
right,
that
we
will.
Let's go, Kellen Acosta.
Is Ricardo Pepe playing yet?
I don't know.
It was Pulisic.
Okay, yeah, obviously. The kid named Christian. All right. We're talking about basketball. We're moving on. Dallas Mavericks are playing basketball games. They have played 2 thus far in the finals. They have not played 2 games that they're very proud of, but they have played 2 games. That is factual.
They played 2 halves. They can.
I'll give you guys a quick. I'll give you guys a quick little breakdown of these 2, and then what I want you guys to do is walk with me down the players list here, and let's kind of talk about everybody as a person before we get into the bigger picture to finish it.
Are we doing the thing that I did with the Eagles and Chiefs that one year?
I don't necessarily recall.
Where I record it, slow it down when you're wrong, and
where I went down like, let's compare the positions.
He's
and
like
which
the
one's better.
secondary.
No,
obviously the Eagles.
Yeah, no. We're not doing that. We're just going
to.
I just want to organize the collective thoughts that might have come from 2 games worth of NBA Finals basketball. But let me summarize the games for anybody who hasn't quite been able to watch, whatever it is. Game 1, great start for both teams, really getting everything going. Mavericks sub in the other guys. Boston keeps their guys rolling for the most part because they're pretty deep anyway. Porzingis goes fucking nuts. That thing, it's a 3-point avalanche. This game is looking silly quick. Part of the reason why I said, hey, this Boston team deserves the motherfucker status because we know the potential could be really bad. But, like, when it hits, like, look at how poor, like, this Mavericks team is doing everything they can. They're just getting rained on right now. There's nothing they can do about it. They survived. They even had a third-quarter push, but the Mavericks, again, stalled out. Celtics cruised to a Game 1 victory. Game 2, Celtics look like complete shit. They continued to shoot like shit through most of the game. Luka comes out looking like an absolute killer. Teammates looking like absolute filler. It's a close one the whole way. Unfortunately, though,
Celtics pulled away.
It really wasn't very close because they never got that second engine of life.
And the Mavs just gave up.
And I think a lot of free throw shooting is to be blamed for that. It felt like it was a collective sigh. They kept having the ability to dominate the game early, to get into the driver's seat of this game that would have been very winnable.
That was the game they needed to win. And I'm not saying that for hyperbole. It's like, that this Boston team, they can rain down threes on you, but when you live by the 3, you also die by the 3. So when you have those off shooting nights, you got to take advantage of that. Otherwise, your margin of error is already little. It's already like this because it's a 64-10 win. 64 win team for a reason, right? And so if you're missing makeable free throws, if you have, you look at Kyrie, he missed a lot of shots that he normally makes. Like maybe other players don't make those shots, but those are shots Kyrie makes. And then you have the bench putting up 9 points. 9 points in a gotta have it situation because you, like I said, you have such smaller margins for error at this stage of
Right.
the postseason.
And we know Boston's deeper, but this is where coach speak gets to happen. They just did what they're supposed to do.
Yeah,
They defended home court.
Series hasn't started until the road teams won again.
There you go. How many more cliches can we pull out?
It is worth noting though that the Kyrie thing is a pretty. You knew Luka was the best player on the court in the series. You thought Kyrie would at least be in the top 5, and that's.
It's been bad. It's been a lot of things
because of how much depth they don't have. He has to do better. But we should mention that before we started recording, we did get the breaking news that there is no Kristaps Porzingis tonight, and that definitely changes
something
how the game plays.
Well, that's why I wanted to kind of get this thing just trying to slowly chunk into some of these topics, right? Because essentially all the reaction we've had to the first 2 games is sort of null and void now, because a pretty big variable is just swung in this whole series. So let's start with the Kyrie point that you brought up first. Let's knock Kyrie out of the way because it's pretty obvious that he's got to play better. But the answer is how, right? You're right, Caesar. It looks like he's had shots that Kyrie can make. The problem that I think most people have is the Mavericks have no ball movement, right? The assists are low for everybody, including Luka, which we'll get to in a bit. So what needs to really happen probably already just kind of got taken care of when we talk about Kristaps Porzingis, unfortunately, is they need to move the ball around. They need to have guys doing other things. Kyrie will be better. I think this team will be better if he goes back to the formula of being the distributor primarily, as much as they can to start games and then get a little bit more microwavy towards the end of the second quarter and then on to the game, right? I'm not saying that's easier said than done. I just think that formula worked a little bit better in the past, and I think for this situation it works now. It was great to change that up for the Wolves to basically call them out at what they thought they were best at. But at the end of the day, that was just one series. This is a new series. Even if Kristaps Porzingis was playing and 100% healthy, I would still feel the same about that. Is he's got to do that. And then you do have to start to wonder and worry a little bit if this Boston thing isn't a pretty heavy weight on his shoulders that he's not lifted, because it's a career now.
He was talking to the crowd in game 1, right? He said he wasn't going to do that.
And then after the game, he even had a comment that they ended up putting on the Jumbotron for the game 2 to get the crowd hype.
Yeah.
So I think for him being either 0-8 or 0-9 now in his career.
12.
12, yeah. It's up.
Oh, is it that bad?
Yeah.
For it to be that bad, that's really tough, man. So he's got to get this back in Dallas, get the rhythm right, and then he can answer to those sins in a potential game 5. For now, that's it for Kyrie, I think, though. I don't think there's anything other. What's else to say? He's missing shots he usually makes. He's got a great defender on him that we'll get on to that conversation later down the line. But at this point, as far as he's concerned, it's just he's got to be setting the table for these other guys to create a little more space for him. So it's not just Kyrie and one mixtape every possession. Kristaps Porzingis will be the other side of this coin. Like I said, he went nuts. So then kind of cooled down in the game offensively. Still made a massive impact around the rim defensively.
Right.
No.
That's before I forget. That is the one thing I noticed that I feel like I haven't seen in a basketball game in a long time. Is it felt like the Mavs literally had there was no game at or above the rim. It was just all gone for them by the end of game 2.
They basically the Celtics were playing like I play on the little NBA 2K thing when you get to create your own teams and you just stack them up with the most insane talent ever, and you're just big brothering little people. You're just taking away all the easy stuff.
I don't know if it's because the Celtics are that good or the Mavs bench is that bad or whatever, the Mavs rotation's that bad, but Either way,
It was
feels
both.
it's something I feel like I haven't seen since like Spurs Pistons of just like there's just nothing happening here.
A healthy Celtics team is one of the best talents of, especially rostered talents we've seen in a while.
Yeah.
How much you want to rank it depends on how much they do, probably. But
But
when healthy, they are.
It's a weird like you can feel what is it, visceral, almost visceral. Just like you can feel that they're just shut down or anywhere near, above, or around the rim. It's crazy. Sorry, it's been a long time since I've felt that watching an NBA game.
Yeah, and they have all the guys to do it. They have too many athletes to name, and then you have Zingis running around like he was. That's not fair, dude. But unfortunately, that's not going to be the situation most likely. At least not tonight, and probably not moving forward. But we will monitor that as we go. The other issue, so essentially they're calling this torn medial retina column, allowing dislocation of the posterior tibialis tendon.
So there's like a sac that holds a bunch of tendons, and he tore the sac, which means something else could go wrong.
Yeah,
I'm
I think
understanding
so.
They considered him day-to-day initially. Joe Mazzulla, they dropped this report, and then Mazzulla gets in front of the does his press conference. It's just bing bong. They call him day-to-day, and then Joey Maz says the decision is not in Kristaps Porzingis' hand, which is why we're not surprised to see him out tonight, because why would you play him tonight? It does not make sense to play him tonight. If they played him tonight, I would be disrespected. I would be upset. I would be irate, and the ownership should fire Jason Kidd for not just running every single play at his direction.
Yeah, okay. Because I was just gonna say, what's the difference between running him out there and getting him hurt in 5 minutes tonight, or in 5 minutes in Game 4? So I don't know.
Well, that's the thing is you know the second you put him on the court, Jason Kidd and Luka Doncic are going to choose to do nothing else, not a thing else, but just pick and attack anything that 8 has to do on the basketball court. They'll probably even be much more aggressive with him defensively, even if it lets open some open buckets, just because they want to take him out of the series that badly, you know?
No.
And they have every right to. They may not be in a series with a healthy version of him. And it's not necessarily rooting for injuries either. I don't give a shit. My biggest thing is this is how the actual strategy works. If you're going to play on an injured body, like the other side of this, as we segue to Luka, this guy's injured, right? This guy's got a fucking knee sprain, probably an ankle issue, at least.
Chest contusion.
He got the chest contusion the other night. We finally find out because McMahon from ESPN is able to, I guess officially confirm that he's been getting pain injection shots. I'm going to break some news here now with no sourcing, but I'm going to break news for you guys. I firmly know that Luka's been getting these pain injections since at least the start of the playoffs.
I'm surprised if that's all he's getting. I mean,
right.
So that was a little bit of a non-story, but it got buried by the Kristaps Porzingis official words. So luckily people weren't really too concerned about that. It is troubling a little bit more for probably Slovenia, who now face the reality
Olympic committee.
No.
Well, they have to qualify still, they have a July 2nd, I believe, is when they would have to get ready
the
on
finals
qualifying.
Still be going. That's around like Game 4, right?
No, thankfully the finals will have just wrapped up right before then. But if you remember correctly, what was
the
it?
WNBA? You just go like finals, draft, season start.
Yes. Well, I mean, now this season basketball is not really going to stop either because we're going to be paying so much attention to the Olympic team. Anyway, very interesting injury issues back and forth here, and of course, Luka's going to get picked on defensively, but that's going to happen regardless. You have the pathetic free throws. That's sort of a career lingering issue with Luka. It feels like it's more of a mental thing than anything, which is really funny for a kid who can just turn it on like that when he gets angry.
Are you sure it's not just a practice thing?
I don't disagree with the practice stuff. I'm usually the one who preaches that. I think in Luka's case, he kind of psychs himself out a little bit more than because he gets really
Well,
like
even at his best, what is he like? Maybe 70.
I think it's his anger really. If I'm being honest, I think the way he like gets frustrated and angry, and I'm speaking a little bit this on from personal experience, but like I think he gets a little angry and frustrated and kind of bogs himself down in those moments because he's already got so much history of fucking this up in a way, and it's just one of those things you
I
got to
say
get
practice.
past.
I think it's also impossible to recreate an in-game free throw situation. So
Yeah, that's a part of it. He forced a lot, but there was nothing going fluidly. So why wouldn't you force things? Really, not a lot of negative about Luca. I think the saddest point is because of the injuries, because of the conditioning, because of other situations. Luca's not saving them from their biggest problem in the series. And what, even if Kristaps Porzingis doesn't play another minute in the series, worries me about the Mavericks' chances still. Jaylen Brown in isolation is absolutely frying these boys up left and right. Luka's had a couple possessions where he's fine, but the issue is Luka can kind of catch him when Jalen's doing that change of pace stuff behind him because Luka can shift gears and he's big. But the second that spin move comes out, Luka's looking like a fool, man. And it's tough, man. I get it. Jaylen Brown has come a long, long way. Like that guy's probably going to make the NBA Hall of Fame one day, and I jokes on the Hall of Fame. But I remember him being a 5-star recruit in Cal. I remember being like, God, this guy has the physical makeup of all the superstar stuff you want.
I mean, I
But
was
this
told
guy
he's
doesn't look
the
like he
best
knows
player
how
on
to
their
basketball.
team. So
I mean,
He's
but
been playing like it.
It's impressive how
I do think he's obviously really, really good.
I just think it's with all due respect to Jaylen Brown in his name, I just think he deserves a ton of credit for the player he's progressed to become from where he was. I know he's a former 5-star. I know that he was still a pretty highly drafted player. My biggest issue with Jaylen Brown is just it never felt like a guy who really was a natural basketball player. Looked like a great athlete, but didn't feel like he had the rhythm, the cadence, didn't like, all that different stuff the minutia. And he's slowly been able to form that while forming like a really perfect physique for his position too. And like essentially becoming one of the foremost athletes on the wing in the NBA. So it's just really one of those things where I can't say enough positive about him. Even though a lot of times it's being reflected with the negative of his teammate, Jason Tatum. And I feel a little bad for Tatum too, because, Tatum essentially is who he is. He's still really useful for this team, but essentially him being the number 2, as he's been these first 2 games, has kind of been nice because he's a great defensive player. He's a really useful offensive player when it comes to sort of keeping this offense moving when he's not got that stick 'em mentality, when it's not just Kobe in the isolation.
Well, you say that, but like in game 2, he led the team in shots attempted,
That's fine. But that's fine. That's gonna happen.
That's not being the number 2.
That is being the number 2 for Jason Tatum.
Well, see, that's so that's the thing that the Mavs are missing is Kyrie isn't filling in to help out Luka in those moments where he needs him.
Yeah, because Jaylen Brown really, I don't think Jaylen Brown has any business being a volume shooter. Tatum, I think, has done more with scoring and deserves the credit of being a volume shooter. I think Jaylen Brown has become even better because of his selection, his ability to navigate exactly the perfect amount of Jaylen Brown in every game to allow for Tatum to feel comfortable enough to contribute and shit like that. Like, even if he is ultimately the second best talent on the court for his team, he helps it all kind of fluidly go by being more decisive, being a superstar at what his job is every night. But yeah,
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention just obviously props to Brad Stevens for apparently being the next genius in basketball, because going from he was an assistant coach to all of a sudden a coach for like 2 years, and then
he went straight
college,
from Butler.
right? He went from college straight
Butler,
into
Butler, and then they hired
like
him
2 years
to
and just moved right on up to GM, which is a way better gig. And
I mean, also, we talked about Jerry West, a guy who realized that he was going to be better building these things than guiding them himself.
I also just think it's a better job in general, but
I would agree with that
so to
as well.
speak. But he's done an incredible job of not just finding great talent, but finding great talent that works. Like he made Porzingis. He figured out Porzingis was going to fit with them. I guess Porzingis could fit with a lot of people, but it's not everybody. Especially not when you already have superstars.
You're talking about how he maximizes the value of the player.
Yeah.
And there's no doubt about it. I mean,
it's like
you're looking
Moneyball, but they have a giant salary.
I mean, Brad Stevens has almost had one of the more flawless resumes, because especially what we talked about a lot with the team that's currently trying to hire a head coach while we're having an NBA Finals and making it everybody's problem. Their GM has a lot of cachet, and his record is incredibly stupid.
It's like to foreshadow now that we're going to get Super Bowl week talk of who the Cowboys are going to hire for head coach next season. All right.
Well, I'm sure. And then the baseball year, we're going to. is Toronto's head coach up in hockey? Is that being talked about?
They already changed that this offseason.
Are the Yankees going to fire their guy while the World Series is going on?
No, they don't play those. They don't really play those games the same way that.
That's sad.
Not anymore, at least.
Back. Anyway, Brad Stevens has excelled by making sure that the others, as Shaq likes to call them, are pretty fucking elite. And it doesn't get much more elite than having one of your others be a key part of the Olympic team. And after a big Game 2 performance, potentially the front runner for Finals MVP right now, Drew Holiday.
Which I guess the Celtics fans can thank Dame Lillard for. Which
vicariously is also Giannis's fault. Yes, because we have to blame the player for forcing the trade. We all know it's the player's faults. The GMs don't do anything.
The money had to go somewhere, so.
So essentially, if Kyrie's numbers stay down, if everything kind of stays consistent, I still think Jaylen Brown will end up getting the nod. But Drew Holiday is certainly the front runner after 2. Also had a really efficient game 1. So we look down the line to the other guy that's going to become a lot more important for the Celtics before we get into the Mavericks and their many others.
Larry Bird.
Al, as Payman likes to call him, your mother is a Horford. And there's going to be plenty of opportunities for one of the greatest MFFLs out there to get to say that a lot in the ensuing games, because we know Al Horford's going to be playing a lot of basketball. And Al Horford might even retire after this, especially if they win the ring. Because those knees are not going to be in good places after this.
You don't think he can get like a new Udonis Haslem type situation going in Boston?
I think he can play as long as he wants, but I think mentally and physically after the career he's had,
yeah,
I would consider going.
If you're that like 12th/13th guy, how much play?
But he's not now. I mean, even this year he was essentially their sixth man.
He wants to be.
Yeah, I mean,
would Boston let him just hang out?
Yes, absolutely. Because essentially Brad brought him back as a throwaway. He had gotten salary dumped. Remember, he left Boston to go to Philadelphia. It was a terrible fit, terrible idea. Philadelphia dumped him in Oklahoma City. He did a little time in Oklahoma City, not as a player, just as a working out at the facility. Please don't make me play for this roster guy. The Sam Presti special. And then the next summer, Sam Presti had him back in Beantown. And he's been, I think, signing team friendlies since. So Horford, definitely an interesting guy when it comes to the rest of the series. He'll stretch the floor decently, although Al Horford is certainly not someone I'm that scared of. He might fuck me up one game, but that means the second game I'm going to be like, do it again. And he's going to fuck it up, and I'm going to be like, that's why you're Al Horford. I love you, respect you, but that's no offense. This is why the rings is this. I mean, rings, Ernie. On that one, I have to give him a little shit. It's always been sort of a thing for his career. So, I mean, it'd be impressive for him to finish it up by being a very reliable three-point shooter because his consistency has always been an issue in that one. Rebounding is going to be the biggest thing. That's also going to mean, what does that mean for the guys who don't play when he's on the court or play with him on the court? Is that Xavier Tillman, who essentially is a bit smaller version of Daniel Gafford, but with the right energy and effort, could potentially give you something closer to Gafford if you need to at least get that close to meeting what Gafford's bringing. Luke Cornett isn't Kristaps Porzingis, but he's one of the best shooters in the NBA. We just don't realize it because he can't really move that well. God bless him. He's a big guy, hard to get around the court, but he's a hell of a shooter. Don't leave him open too much. Or do they go all the way small ball with O'Shea Brissett, who is essentially a 6'8" wing, very good defensive wing, but would very much make them a small team.
What about that guy who hit that half court shot? Can he just come in and just do that for a full game?
Well, he will also need to do a lot of that if they play small, because playing small against this Mavericks team could end up putting you in a very bad position. And this is where we move on to just talking about the Dallas Mavericks others. Because, yes, those other guys, Sam Hauser, the white boy bench that Boston has is interesting. I'm not saying that they're nothing, but I'm more concerned with Horford and Drew Holiday. Derek White, I have not mentioned, but that's not because it's not worth mentioning. It's just literally he's one of the most consistent players in the world. You just have to hope he doesn't have one of those games where he shoots out of his mind. You just have to hope he shoots like a normal human, and then you're pretty much, you got it there for the Mavericks. And if it's Celtics, you got so much good defense, you're not even really worried about what he's shooting. We're going to start this with Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively, two men whose careers looked like they were going to be altered in a negative way after the first two games. Not necessarily Lively, because there's a ton of grace on Lively.
He's so young.
For Gafford to get traded to this team, to be so useful, to prove so many people like myself right that he could be a contributor to winning, and then get to the absolute pinnacle of the game, and then get played out of the series, would be quite a crushing way to end your season. Luckily, even with Kristaps still in the game last night, or in the last game,
5 days ago.
5 games ago, he was able to play. What was it, Sunday night? It was that bad, but he was able to play. He was able to play a much more comfortable, energetic game. He's not perfect. I don't expect him to start raining threes all of a sudden. I don't expect him to be able to lock up everybody on, if he gets in isolation, he might get cooked by some dudes. That's okay. At the end of the day, I need energy and effort, and I saw confidence in him that made me more confident. And of course, now with this shift happening, he and Lively can kind of go back to some extent to what they were before. Hopefully this allows for the rim to open up a little bit. It's not gone, because you still got a lot of other dudes that can make up for Kristaps. It wasn't just him.
But you can't replicate that length,
but the feeling of him not being out there makes everything.
It's one thing with a 6'9" guy versus 7'3" guy.
That just means the impetus is on the Celtics to show them that not much is changing.
And if I'm Jason Tatum and I'm Jaylen Brown, now my length and my athleticism, I'm kind of like thinking about, do I have to make up for two people now? You know what I mean? I'm kind of over here. So now if I can catch Tatum and Brown overthinking on defense, I have more opportunity as well. So that's really what you're hoping for with all of this change.
Now, what I'm hoping for in this game, right? And this has this is, I guess, independent of Porzingis. But, kind of circling back to the Kyrie issue of, him just in game 2, he started the first half pretty good and then faded away in the second half. Game 1, a non-factor. It sucks that we're in this position as Matt, for me as a, Mavs fan, Mythal, if you will.
And I will.
Fair enough. Seeing your third option, right? PJ Washington, just not being there.
He hasn't shot perfectly by any means or exceptionally, but he's been the most comfortable Maverick outside of Luka, in my opinion.
But that's almost not saying much, because it's just
I didn't say it was.
Yeah. I where is the guy from the OKC series? I know that's different defenders, different players, different situations.
Yeah,
but man, I saw what the peak of PJ Washington's powers could be, right, in that series. Granted, there's a reason his career is the way that it is, because it's becoming consistent and being able to tap into that potential that's been, the issue. And of course, it happens when you're in bad environments, right?
And you're still going to hope that in the future that the Mavericks, even if they won this title, they would still be looking to add to what they currently have with Derek Jones, with PJ Washington. You'd want probably another guy.
Yeah,
in
I
that
mean,
mold.
I'm sure that you would want that whoever that next person to be. Maybe
But even if it's
like,
not a superstar, even if it's just another role player, you just want more guys of that make and model.
and you want somebody who could be a reliable number 3 whenever
I think
Tyrese
Lively can help himself into that position, but in different ways. He's just got to continue to progress, and that's unfortunate. You're asking a lot of a kid who just got off the, who just got in through the doors, essentially. Like he's still just a baby.
I mean, yeah, but it's like it's the finals.
Reasonably.
I can't.
Yeah, you mean the number
have
3
your
right
hand
away. Well, the Mavericks don't have a number 3. That's the problem. They have two guys that need to
right
play
now. They
their
don't have
best.
a 2.
They have 2 guys that they need to play out of this world, and then just whoever else can contributes. That's their formula. It doesn't have to be consistent. It doesn't have to be a third guy. Who was the third best scorer on the Cavs 2016?
Was it not Kevin Love?
It would probably be Kevin Love, actually. I forgot how easy that was.
Yeah.
J.R. Smith also probably could be there,
Everybody
too.
forgets about
New
Kevin Love.
DFW resident J.R. Smith.
Yeah,
by the way.
it would be one of those two, but yeah, it's probably Kevin Love. So yeah, I mean, that one's a little bit easier. I should have guessed harder. Do I say Warriors? Because then you're like, is it Klay Thompson or Draymond Green?
Which Warriors team?
You know
Or
which
is it
Warriors.
Steph
You know which Warriors.
when Kevin's on it?
Oh, y'all heard the spicy stuff that Swaggy P was spilling tea today, right?
Yeah.
Oh no, I didn't.
Funny.
I actually didn't hear anything.
He said that Steph and KD were competing for the 2018 MVP, Finals MVP, and like Steph basically was upset after. And then some people found video of him after the game, even though they went up 3-0. Found video of Steph Curry not being happy for his team after that. So I don't know how.
When you have so many rings, how happy can you really be?
And let's not forget that was the year that LeBron broke his hand mad as hell at JR. So like, they already knew they were winning the finals, man.
And
they weren't tripping.
They were already the best team ever, basically, and then added Kevin Durant. So
yeah, and KD was about to dip. Or no, that was the next year. Okay.
Yeah.
Either way.
Crazy time.
So that was a big part of this. We're looking at who could become the guys that could help. Dante Exum had a little bit of moments. Josh Green has been useful on one end, has been terrifying on the other. We have Jaden Hardy, who's probably going to deserve to have more minutes just because he can shoot a little bit, but then every time he gets into his little dribbles, it's tough because they ask him to do that, but how much of that could he actually do if you wanted more? Not a lot.
Yeah.
And so those are a couple of things that I think are relevant to it, but nobody is more important to this conversation than Sir Maximum Kleber. And this is not with positive regards that I have this conversation, but I'm going to go ahead and just let the video evidence play here, and then we'll talk a little bit about Maxi Kleber.
Left cross, Maxi Kleber decides probably not a good idea to challenge. This is a tough move. He's a dynamic athlete, and that is an emphatic finish. It's so pretty.
And the worst part was for Maxi, they kept using that video every time they went in and out of break for the rest of the game.
Yeah, it's the cleanest highlight they're going to have the whole night. So
they had just Maxi making a big-time business decision in the NBA Finals.
Well, it's also
and I'm not saying it's the wrong business decision.
It's also don't get called for the foul if he's already going to get the dunk.
That's part of it. I'm just saying when it comes down to the energy and the effort needed, if the guy, let me just give you this replay one more time. The only thing I want everybody to watch is where both gentlemen start. And I am aware Jaylen Brown is a faster human being than Maximum Kleber, but they essentially arrive whatever. If I'm a head coach, and if look at his minutes after this, and maybe Jason Kidd agree with me, I need to see you lay it out on the line, even if it's kind of a dumb foul.
Probably in the finals.
Left cross, Maxi Kleber decides probably not a good idea to challenge. This is a tough move. He's a dynamic athlete, and that is an emphatic finish.
He got there in time.
Wrong. Doris, you're not wrong. That's a dynamic athlete.
I mean,
but he was still shaking and baking Luka.
Kleber's jump wasn't going to be in time.
But that
doesn't matter.
No, but the thing is he's still shaking and baking Luka when Maxi sees what's happening is at the 3-point line. Kleber has to go up for that, even if it's off
You're right.
Like,
man.
anyway.
Like when I saw that, and I'm just screaming in my head, hard foul, just a hard foul right there, please.
He also had a shot earlier in the game that I thought was very unfortunate. Not that it went not in at all, because it didn't, but because it looked like he was visibly shaking as he was taking the shot. Again, I don't know the level to extent of his injury, but
He was out for a while.
And it was the weird one. It was the weird shoulder thing, so that would definitely fuck up a shot. That was visibly terrifying, and I think that there was no way anyone was ever going to close out on him again after that, and I don't think they did. I think he continued to shoot open shots.
And I think anybody who's followed Maxey, let's say for the last three seasons since the last time we had Brunson, right? At least on local radio, at least on certain Mavs-centric podcasts, you'll have a stretch of the season where we talk about Maxi Kleber's confidence in his shot just being gone, because he'll go through stretches of a season where the guy just gets the fucking yips.
I think there's more. There's plenty of guys who you can see this as, I'm sure, but I think even if it is because you obviously follow this team closely, or I, by way of living in the city, do, I agree. I think Maxi's almost like my perfect example of this sort of self-confidence necessary to thrive in the NBA.
Yeah, and it's frustrating because whenever he's on, you're like, oh man, this guy is so good for stretching the floor out and playing perimeter defense at the 4, occasionally at the 5, depending on whatever the other team's doing, small ball wise. And then he just disappears because he just loses just a wee bit of confidence, and then that just spirals for 20 games. And
in this situation, you're rushing back, and all the pressure's on you because now they need you to be the swingman for a shooting series. So it's a very difficult ask for Maximum Kleber as well. I can't understate that enough.
Yeah, I understand. Obviously, it is a lot to ask for, but when you're in this position and you don't know if you'll be in this position again.
Yeah, especially him.
Yeah,
Maxi might have to consider, being like, I made some good money here. I might still have a job with this team forever. You know what I mean? Like, or I can probably find a way to, finagle my relationships into a long-term gig. Sometimes role players think about that, or maybe he wants to go play in Germany 1 year before he hangs it all up, whatever it is.
Adam Silver is actively calling Jerry West the logo on ESPN right now, or on ABC.
Well, shit.
Nice. I see Adam. I don't hear him, though.
I put the captions on because I wanted to see if he was going to say it, and he definitely called him that. So.
All right. Well, we'll find out how litigious the kids are.
Right. But yeah, no. with Maxi, man, I'm just like, if we get more of that in this series, I'm ready with the pitchfork to be like, let's get him out of here. Thank you for your services, but we need to find something else.
And the team likes him. He's been a great player. He's been a great developmental story for them. I have no problem with him. He makes next to no money considered what he's worth when he's playing well. So I really don't care. They're not going to continue. It's not like he's signed for a forever deal.
No, I don't think that this series coming back from that injury is going to affect how they view him in the immediate future.
Absolutely. But again, as that clip was proof, and the reason I showed it is if he's making decisions like that, if the shot looks like that, even if there's no KP for the rest of this series, honestly, maybe that's the biggest blessing for Maxi is he gets to just maybe sit the pine a little bit more or get to play with bigger guys and have a chance to get his comfortability with shooting again. So that's pretty much wrapping it up, though, for us. Game 3 is going to start here soon. Mavericks pretty much have to win this game. I think that there's pretty much no way. There's pretty much no way you can survive losing this one, especially with the KP injury news. I think the biggest things to look for is who, if any, Dallas Mavericks get their shot together, because they could still easily win this game without shooting well. And there's a few names to look at. Obviously, Kyrie Irving, but then Derrick Jones Jr., who I think made the first bucket, and I don't know how many he's made after.
I don't think we touched on it, but the corner 3 number has been a big talking point.
Yeah,
the fact that it's just eliminated.
8%.
But it's the same with the rim. I mean, both of those things have been taken out, but now they're back on the menu potentially I think they're on the menu, but I'm not going to completely write off the Celtics' ability to adjust on the fly. I just think that from what they have left over, I think that this game is going to expose that and allow one, if not both of them, back into at least tonight's contest.
With that saying, does anybody want to make any predictions on this game? Not that it matters when this comes out. We'll know the result.
I had Boston in 6. I look smart, but I'm almost kind of willing to flip-flop it because of how much I'm terrified. But I'm going to stick on 6, maybe even push it to 7, because I still think Drew Holiday, Derek White, I still think there's an embarrassment of riches for the Celtics that they can survive, and maybe they get a minimal KP, and it's enough. But boy, do the Mavericks look like a very, very, very lively team for to be down 2-0. Like, I'm not gonna lie about that. I would definitely not be afraid to put money down on that if I could.
I think the stubbornness in me is still gonna say Mavs in 7, but it's not nearly as confident as last week's. You know?
I don't know. Maybe you should be more confident. It's dumb confidence right now. There's not visible proof of the confidence yet.
Well, I mean, in game 1, if you look at game 1, right? If you look at game 1, and I know I'm cherry picking here, right? But you look at the second half of game 1, it's a 1-point game. If you just go by the score. And then in game 2, we saw how they were in it from start to finish. Of course, they make some dumb mistakes. They miss some key free throws that ended up costing them the game. But like I see a team that can compete with Boston when they're not shooting themselves in the foot, right? Mm-hmm. So it'd be nice for them to stop doing that, so I can say, "Hey, Mavs in 7," and not be like, "Please, can we get a gentleman's sweep at the very least?" Because I don't want to see at least
lose with some pride and some vigor.
Yeah, but
maybe worth someone's thousands of dollars they spent for tickets to the AAC,
right? And
for sure.
You know what?
Tonight at least, yeah.
Mavs, do it for the freaking corgi that everybody's obsessed with. That said, the Mavs win in 7 and after losing the first 2 games.
All right, there you go.
Please,
Mavs. So does the corgi finally get the big one right? That's where we leave you off with basketball world. There is plenty to talk about in the basketball universe in the future. So though we just stick to the finals now, don't worry. There's drafts. There's all Olympics. There's all kinds of goodies coming your way. So there's Laker head coaching talk that we can get into eventually. Everyone's so excited.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to deserve its own episode of how they just kind of fucked that up.
You can do a weekly hoopla for
just the Lakers. Yeah, I should do a daily hoopla for the Lakers.
Just at least 5 minutes. You gotta do at least 5 minutes a day on the Lakers.
Just to going over their IGs from the players' IG stories. All right. Do I hear the wheel of justice spinning?
Maybe.
Which means it's time for.
Hey, Coach, Fight Club. Hey, Coach, Fight Club.
Oh my God.
So cheap.
Oh, it hurts. It hurts. Oh, but we have it. All right. For everybody that's been following the Head Coach Fight Club this off season, we are at the end of the divisional rounds, if you will. We've gone through all
kind of.
Yep, we've gone through all of the NFC conference. We've gone through 3/4 of the AFC conference to determine who's going to the winners brackets, who's going to the losers brackets of the Head Coach Fight Club, and now we end it with the AFC East. And gentlemen, this one should prove to be rather entertaining because I'm looking at the art that has been chosen for this.
There's some good art.
All right,
it's a good division. It's a good one.
This is a lot. There's a lot going on here, and I love it. Now, in this year's edition of the AFC East Fight Club, we are introducing a new combatant with last year's runner-up Bill Belichick having been fired or retired, whichever one. Fired. Let's be real.
Mutually departed.
Mutually departed.
Retreated. Combine the words.
There we go. Refried. Refried beans.
Refried
is what he
beans.
is.
He's
That's what
refried
he
beans,
is.
Yes.
He's been refried beans, and now steps in one of his former players, Gerard Mayo, and oh yeah, look at him. What the hell?
That's a Hellman's mayonnaise ad.
I can't. Okay,
Because-
that's good.
Because
That's good.
the last guy, he didn't do this kind of stuff. The new guy, he does
Belichick's
fucking
in plenty
mayonnaise
of
ads.
commercials.
He does.
How many?
Does he
At
have
least one.
Does he
That's
have
not
rappers
plenty.
come to work out in the weight room?
Did Randy
Nope.
Moss ever rap?
No,
Nah,
not the
the
players.
Patriots.
Aaron Hernandez did.
Yeah.
that checks
Anyway,
out.
back to our combatants. In the 1 versus 4, we have Sean McDermott and Gerard Mayo.
There's another
noted
look.
terrorist sympathizer.
Sean McDermott. Oh my God, this is incredible. I wish this was around last year's Fight Club. He probably would have won.
I think he has got a significant advantage coming into this, but we'll see how it goes.
You know, some would say he might be at a disadvantage, but I beg to differ. Now, we go into our 2 versus 3, which I don't see a graphic for.
Are you kidding?
I am not, sir.
Oh, son of a bitch.
Well,
Quick pause.
so
This is a quick pause. This is a quick pause.
We can do it. We got.
Yeah, we can do it with the images that we have
Yeah,
provided
just go.
over
We're
here.
good. We're good.
All right.
Somehow I didn't
Representing the 2 speed, the Miami Dolphins. This man right here.
This wild and crazy guy.
Oh
Look
my
at that
gosh.
fella.
Mike McDaniels. Oh, that one looks terrifying.
What a crazy guy. What a
crazy
wild
guy.
and crazy guy.
Now, last year he was unceremoniously defeated. Because let's be real, of all the combatants in this division, he is the lightest man. He is the true featherweight. But he's still, you know what? I believe in him. He's a cool guy. I feel like he has that dog in him nowadays. But that dog is the size of a chihuahua, so he needs to be wary of, I believe, last year's runner-up in the division, Robert Saleh. Look at that great set of hair. Where did you find this?
The Jets subreddit.
It's
Oh my
not
God.
the worst thing I've ever seen.
No, but it's just so glorious. So those are our combatants. Now, do we have a tail of the tape available today? I'm not sure.
I have as many as I could find.
All right.
On McDermott, I do not have any because all that pops up when you type Sean McDermott in is a whole lot of random dudes who play Division 1 and 2 basketball.
Oh, heard. Oh, well, you know
Sean
what?
McDermott is kind of a popular name in the Irish Catholic community, I'm guessing.
White community.
Yeah.
Well, that specific brand of Caucasian.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lead things off in this one with the wheel.
Which
We're going to go with 2. We're going to go 2 versus 3.
Okay, thank you.
And I will show you, audience at home, my fellow hosts, what the wheel has landed on. And we got Fight on the Field.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
All right. This could have not been a worse matchup or a worse type of fight for Mike McDaniels than a fight on the field with the bald-headed aggression demon that is Robert Saleh, except
Hey.
Robert Saleh now has hair. So maybe that drains his powers a little bit. I don't know. We'll figure this out.
He's not as angry now. He's got the happy flow.
He's got that happy flow because you know why? He knows this is his last season in New York. He doesn't have to deal with this bullshit anymore. He doesn't have to deal with Aaron Rodgers, the Johnson family. He doesn't have to deal with none of that. He just has to get through the season, collect this one check, let the hair flow, baby. Just let it go.
Do coaches get game checks?
Who knows?
Sorry, continue.
I don't know. That's a good question.
Probably
For another day.
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe.
Their
I've never
management,
heard
though,
of them
that's
getting
different.
That could be annual
Their
salary.
management. So yeah, there's no way.
Yeah. But anyway, here in the front on the field, let's see what I think, how this happens, how this possibly comes about. Because if you've seen Mike McDaniels, he's a pretty chill guy. You know, he never seems rattled, never seems too outside of himself on the sidelines. If anything, the camera focuses on him being a little too chill sometimes. Now, that might
Wacky
be because
guy.
maybe, you know, he's from Denver, so he's used to some recreational activities.
Yes, he is friends with Dan Soder, so
I don't know who
it's a
Dan Soder
comedian.
is. Ah,
Sorry.
heard. Well,
They're
either way.
It's Katie Nolan's husband.
They're
all
also
right.
Biffles.
Oh.
Biffles. Well, so gentlemen, let me tell you how I think this fight unfolds. All right. So the aggressor here in this case would be Robert Saleh. Why? Because in the fourth quarter of a tie 23-23 game, all right,
Specific?
Aaron Rodgers blows out his Achilles again.
At least he made it further.
Yes, this time he made it to the fourth quarter of the game.
Good. It's nice.
And you know, Mike McDaniels, he is just very, very jubilant inside. He's like, all right, the biggest threat to us winning this game is gone. Robert Saleh, on the other hand, that magnificent flow, that beautiful set of hair that he just grew for this season, he just starts ripping it out, just out of frustration. He's like, how could this happen again?
As one does.
How in the fuck could I lose him
He's been in
again?
multiple sitcoms.
You
To
know?
explain how someone went bald.
Yeah, there you go. And listen,
And modern science lets people come back from that quickly.
True. Now with this, you know, as he sees poor Aaron Rodgers getting just wheeled into the ambulance yet again, carted off the field, the man starts to see red like a goddamn bull. All right, and he sees Mike McDaniels, and he's, you know, Mike McDaniels is cool, he's chill, but he takes that chillness for disrespect for his quarterback that he did not ask for, but he has him anyway. Either way. So what happens? Like a goddamn bull, motherfucker just charges at Mike McDaniels. You know, we're in the middle of a TV timeout though, so the cameras, they're not showing any of this. We're getting the Burger King commercial. Whopper, 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 Whopper. So as this is happening, that's right.
No,
All right.
no,
You gotta do the Bill Simmons version.
no,
Bill
my God,
Simmons
that's
version was
great.
like, what did you? Yeah.
no.
So as Robert Saleh charges at Mike McDaniels, he leads in with his head because he's going to use that freshly bald cranium of his as a battering ram and go straight for Mike McDaniels' chest, leaving a giant hole in it. And Mike McDaniels falls to the ground dead. And then the cameras come back on, and the whole world sees Mike McDaniels' heart right on top of Robert Saleh's bloodied bald head. Your winner is Robert
Heart for a
Saleh.
hat.
Yep. He has no chance. Mike McDaniels has no chance in this one. But that's just my opinion. Let me pass this rock off to Bethke.
Well, I hear you, and I think that that's how it would go if this was an independent fight. This was a mano-a-mano deal. But in this world, this is on the football field. They're settling this out as soon as they can. This is a beef they've had for a while. They've got to settle this ASAP. You know, right now it's OTAs. It's not, you know, it's whatever. Some people are here, some people aren't. Either way, we're going to square this out. We get onto some practice scrimmage field. These men are duking it out. Mike McDaniel comes fully loaded. Tyreek Hill's coming out with all his guys. all the other Dolphins that are good players, but I don't remember their names anymore because I don't follow football that specifically.
Tua Tagovailoa.
Tua Tagovailoa is not probably a part of this particular gang of ruffians, but maybe he's cheering them on
Tyreek
from the
Hill?
stands. Yeah, I said Tyreek Hill. I said the one player
yeah.
I knew. Jalen Ramsey is still a part of the team.
Yes, he's there.
Yeah.
No, I think
So
Bradley Chubb.
Bradley Chubb. You've got all these talented players coming out to protect him. Mike McDaniel's walked out. He's got the whole team. They're all ready. They're ready to roll for him. He said, "Who have you brought?" He looks around. Robert Saleh looks around. It's just a bunch of rookies. Hello, Hassan. Aaron, I need you quickly. They hung up. Oh no. And then overrun, just rookies, and who did they get somebody back from the Zach Wilson trade that sucks?
Nothing.
Is Seaman their backup quarterback now again?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's the only it's just him and a bunch of the rookies, and Robert Saleh they get whooped. They get completely curb stomped by the entire Miami Dolphins team, who showed up to.
Sorry, it's Tyrod Taylor.
Ooh.
Oh, see, yeah, Tyrod Taylor. He got past the medicals this time, but fortunately, that was still there.
Nobody stuck him in the lung with a needle this time.
No, not this time. So there you have it. The Miami Dolphins, as a team collective, defeat Robert Saleh for Mike McDaniel.
All right, now, Patrick, it's your responsibility to break the tie. Listen, I think you both know who should win this, but will you make the right decision? Who knows?
Well, there's a brains versus brawn thing going on here. So it's how do you weigh those in this context, in this environment? I think that it starts with Mike McDaniel's trying to challenge Saleh to Madden instead of an actual fight. And Saleh just slaps the controller out of his hand and then slaps him in the face. And yeah, it's probably just a pretty quick beatdown. I don't know how Mike McDaniel is going to really outsmart him on the football field. I don't think any of his players, they like him, but they're not going to go just fight the other team's coach. So they're going to tell him to be a man and handle it himself. And it's just not going to go well. I think it's pretty quick beatdown, as much as I like Mike McDaniel.
The winner,
Robert Saleh.
Robert Saleh. He advances to face the winner of the 1-4 match, Gerard Mayo versus Sean.
The good news is that if he does advance to play maybe Sean McDermott, that Aaron Rodgers would more likely pick up the phone at that point.
Ooh. Now, gentlemen, it's time to spin the wheel yet again. I see what we have here. And, let's just go ahead and play the music, shall we, Patrick? We get an anime-style fight.
What the Bumble Club?
Now, I know that anime can sometimes this particular category of fight can feel like it hamstrings you, Bethke. So I'm going to include
King of the Hill.
Because what anime is just Japanese cartoons, and weebs don't at me. It's still cartoons. So I will allow for Celebrity Deathmatch, which was technically a cartoon, to be
animated.
Something that you can draw.
That's good for the next round. I have not prepared going into this, so I will have to, review tape, make sure that we have everything fresh on the brain there. Those are also very specific deaths, often related to the celebrity's own lifestyle. But I will try. Fair. I will still try to force the subject as best I can.
I just want to give you more tools to work with, as you have admitted your anime knowledge is very limited.
Yeah.
I don't want you to feel limited with this category, however.
No, it's okay. I'm still slowly but surely watching Naruto.
Yeah.
Which
I
I
got
just
that right
found
the
out
first time.
recently that in Madden 24 you can use that's one of the celebrations into the end zone you can use if you're 5 yards ahead of
The
everybody.
Naruto run?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
See, that was actually the only way I even knew this anime existed, because in college there would be kids who would run around campus doing it.
There was
What is happening?
How are the
there was
Mavs gonna
a
bring
there was a
out,
Naruto run on Fry Street once. Andy Child participated in one year.
How are the Mavs gonna bring out a guitar player to play the national anthem and not use the guy who designed their City Edition jerseys? And
Oh, Leon Bridges?
yeah, what are they doing?
I don't know.
I don't know
Maybe he's
who
on
was that
tour or
guy?
something.
He looked like he was killing it though.
It's from was it called King Slayer? Something Slayer, but not Slayer, not like
No,
Ryan
he's
Blood
from.
Slayer.
This is the new Slayer.
Yeah. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt there.
Now,
We
I
also
will-
got a moment of silence for
Jerry West?
right before this, so that was cool.
Beautiful. Alrighty. Well, I will lead things off here, gentlemen. As I have many animes to choose from, I'm going to choose one that's not as violent. But it is still very deadly. You see, gentlemen, there's an old series by the name of Death Note.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And in this series, Death Note, you have two characters, one named Light Yagami and the other one just named L.
Yeah, light
You have to-
monogamy.
Yep, who try to figure out the other's identity, one to get arrested, and the other to essentially kill using his magical book of death, known as the Death Note. Shocker. Now, these two coaches know exactly who the other one is. However, their beef does not stem from them already knowing each other, but rather only knowing each other's Reddit username.
Oh,
So these two argue back and forth on Reddit, and both men,
as some
Try to-
fine folks do.
try to figure out the other's identity because something's just not adding up. Their responses to one another feels too familiar, like they've been around each other. And both gentlemen just so happen to have their own version of the Death Note. Now, Sean McDermott, he's learned from his mistakes, his Al-Qaeda loving ways, and he knows, I know anything that I say related to the Middle East, related to anything from 2001, anything from the war in Iraq, it's just going to give me it's just going to reveal my identity to this guy, and he's just going to give me shit for it. No, he's not going to give you shit for it. He's going to send you straight to hell, brother. So he is thinking in his head in these like long eternal monologues, dramatic music playing in the background. There's a bag of potato chips. He's going to eat it. And then Gerard Mayo on the other side. He has a feeling, and he's like, I gotta lay the trap out. I gotta make this guy reveal himself. Give me a clue so I can out him and just do away with the competition early, because he comes from the school of Bill Belichick, where, you know what? Murder's on the table. Murder is on the table. Nothing is off limits unless you're caught, right? But you know what? He's new to the game. It doesn't matter that your sensei was the best, all right? Because you're not him. You can't possibly be him. So, what outs Gerard Mayo? He mentioned something from Tennessee. You know, on a different thread entirely. It's like, yeah, you know, man, this weather up north is just so different from Tennessee. And that's all Sean McDermott needs. He knew that guy was a Tennessee volunteer. He writes the name on the death note. And the next thing you know, there's news breaking on ESPN. Gerard Mayo suddenly dies of cardiac arrest. And Sean McDermott waits. He wants to make sure he got the right guy. And as time passes, little has been heard from this Reddit account user. And that's when he figures out that he got his guy. He advances in the most non-violent head coach Fight Club battle we have ever seen to date. Will he get to face Robert Saleh? Who knows? I'm going to pass this one off to Bethke yet again.
That's beautiful. So, I'm trying to use my expansive knowledge here, and as I'm learning these, as some call them jutsus, right?
Yep.
Jutsus.
Yes, sir.
There's many jutsus. There's fire jutsus, right?
I have not watched anything of Naruto, but I'm familiar with other things. But yeah, you could theoretically have one.
So, in this world, I don't really know the jitsu style that the New England Patriots would run, that Gerard Mayo would see best for that group. Maybe they're more on the win side. Maybe they're on the one where you like multiply yourself thing. A lot of different jitsus they could do. But I feel confident that the Buffalo Bills would be all about the fire jitsu. And even more importantly, the fire bomb jitsu. So not just one person mastering the ability to just create an IED out of nowhere, but a whole entire football roster with the ability. Trained. There's really nothing can prepare anyone for what happens at Foxborough during this fight. It's completely wiped off the face of the map. There is no more Foxborough. There is barely the outskirts of Boston. Nantucket even might have gone. We're still trying to check.
Where are we going to send our migrants now?
Well,
but now Sean McDermott and his merry band of infidels is ridden once again.
Whew. Alrighty. So it seems that we have our majority, but Patrick, for the sake of the game, for the love of the game, we have to hear how you think this would have ended.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys... I can't remember if I've used this one before. I don't think I have. It's called Delicious in Dungeon.
I've been meaning to start that.
Well, I don't think I'm going to actually really spoil anything here, so... Not that I even know what's happening, because I've only seen just various episodes throughout the run, but anyways. So there's some magic going on, that's how some of this works. So at the start, before the fight starts, Gerard Mayo smartly, he starts having someone cast some protection magic around him to prevent future fire damage. And Sean McDermott, he's working on his stuff. He's got some lightning magic, some fire explosive magic coming, but he's also really big into illusion magic, because he doesn't want you to know exactly what he's coming at you with. He doesn't want you to be able to figure it out. But unfortunately, for Sean McDermott, the protection magic was too strong, and Gerard Mayo, as they do in the show, defeats Sean McDermott, then turns him into food, and you get a nice little 3-minute almost TikTok food cooking about recipe of how you use Sean McDermott in a meal. So I would assume that they make him like a shawarma or a falafel, and then. Yeah, eat him. And then
God,
as long as the falafel doesn't make you feel awful.
Gerard Mayo wins. In my little world.
All right, well, that was a good fight by the infidels.
It was, but you know what? It's time now, gentlemen. It is time for what I have been hoping for all goddamn day. The 1 versus 3 is this one. Whether you believe it or not, that is up to you. Play the music, Patrick, because this matchup may get me canceled.
Hey, Coach, Fight Club.
Oh. He meant this music.
Yep. We're going to play the video. The joust has returned, Now, why? Why do you guys? Why would this particular matchup and this particular fight really get me possibly taken off the air? Well, that's because if you remember the last time we had jousts, I had a very certain condition. They rode the mascots instead of horses.
Oh.
Well, I don't know if you picked up on it yet, Bethke. Well, one is riding a buffalo bill, a giant buffalo, and the other one is on a jet. But I want you to look at our combatants just a little bit more closely.
They may be more allies than they realize.
Not in this fight, sir. Not in this fight.
I mean,
See, because this is what I think happens.
depends on who you talk about. I mean, Osama bin Laden was an asset at some point, so.
This is what happens, all right? As these men get themselves ready for the fight, right? Sean McDermott, he's, significantly easier to use, not vehicle, but, he has an easier way of jousting via his trusty steed, a giant buffalo.
What, you think it'd be difficult to pilot a jet and also stick your arm out the window?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But that's what Robert Saleh is going to have to do unless we want to put him at the tail of the plane, or no, at the nose of the plane, just duct tape him and have that spear just hanging out. Whatever way you guys want to picture it. But this is what if
he's just strapped to the wing holding the spear?
Either way, right?
Patrick, that's actually exactly where I was going to go with it.
Well, let me tell you where I'm going with this, right? So, to make this fair, obviously, you're going to need the plane have a little bit more of a leeway, right? To be hovering in through the air, to kind of just match level with the buffalo. So what it is, it's going to be this giant strip of land, just thousands of feet in the air where the buffalo is with Sean McDermott. And so you'll have an opportunity for the plane to be in the sky and the buffalo on the ground, and still our combatants meet each other.
Buffaloes
However,
can be 8.2, was it feet or meters? Feels like that.
Probably feet. Meters seems like a lot.
Oh, meters would be a lot. So definitely in feet.
Yes.
I don't know. I've slowly just gotten to where I can kind of figure out Celsius. I haven't gotten to like meters yet.
Meters like a yardstick, but it's not. That's how they always tell you. I'm like, what?
Right. So it's like 2+ feet.
Now, gentlemen, in this fight, I'm afraid I have some bad news for one of our combatants. As they make their way, as they are charging at each other, the plane suddenly veers off its course. It veers off its course, and like fireworks in the sky, explosions. What happened? Well, not that type of explosion. Well, I want you to see something real quick. I want you to see something. Let's look at this photo yet again. Who does this remind you of? I don't need to say his name. I'm not trying to get us completely taken. Yeah, I'm not trying to get us completely off the air. But
Mark Wahlberg,
Sean McDermott has planted one of his trusty soldiers into that plane that has Robert Saleh. Robert Saleh thought it's one of his guys. No, it's been an inside job the whole time. And Robert Saleh has been sabotaged.
Listen, all of y'all, this is sabotage.
Has beaten Robert Saleh by having that plane forcefully taken from him mid-fight. Gentlemen, I will pass it off to you guys. 13 years isn't a bad.
All right.
Where did it go? It's gone now. I'm
going to keep putting the emphasis and onus on Patrick to make the ultimate decisions and all of this.
Well, Val, you're just kind of spoiling what you're about to say, but
actually, I didn't, because I was very unclear on. So Who ran into? So they're all dead.
No.
No,
So
Salah's
Sean
dead.
Salah's
McDermott
dead.
put someone
Okay,
on,
Sean
on the
McDermott.
jet,
Okay,
and
so
they
had
hijacked the jet that Salah was piloting.
And were they shot down or?
No.
I don't
they
think it
just
really
crashed it.
matters.
They-
Well,
they-
I've heard different stories. I've been told by a source that they were shot down.
No, they weren't shot down. It just
Okay.
exploded.
but either
in
way,
air.
they weren't living
There
anymore.
wasn't multiple planes.
No, just one.
All right, I'm mistaken this for a different situation. It could happen to anybody. So
No, this was the plane in the grassy knoll.
So basically, I have to figure out if these guys are going to have a metaphysical joust in my mind. I would say that this guy is taped to the plane with the pointy thing. This guy's on a buffalo with the pointy thing. I would say this guy flies all the way. Salah flies all the way through, like Boys Episode 1 style, the buffalo and Sean McDermott.
Let's go. Sorry.
Right?
I just saw Gafford with a
Yeah,
beautiful
you-
lob.
Yep.
So in that situation, he would win. However, because of the force necessary to go fast enough, as they slowed down, he got whiplash and died too. So
It's a tie.
does he die later? And then it doesn't.
Is it
matter.
a video game
Well,
style? Who
listen.
dies first?
Listen. If he dies, he can't compete in the next round. So
Well, but we resurrect the loser of this fight anyways.
Yeah,
we could. Yeah.
But
So
we do for the next because they get the backup spots.
yeah, because I almost always kill them.
yeah. So I mean, if you want, we can continue on with the first one that died is
Alright.
the loser. So
It's gotta
In
be-
this world, though, they both died, but technically, one died first.
Which
and
one?
that was Sean McDermott.
Sean McDermott.
Okay.
So Robert Saleh, I did end up tying. Yes, I did.
So you are our tiebreaker, Patrick. How do you see this joust going? Oh my God, what a beautiful shot! And did they not call a foul?
Nope, they didn't. They're talking. Okay.
It's
Anyways,
first quarter. No
I'll try
fouls.
to
in the
be. I'll
first
try to be
quarter.
quick here.
Did they say it's a push off? Because fucking Brown's been pushing off all series. He's been pushing people in the back. This is bullshit. I don't know what's happening. Continue.
Pretty standard joust. I don't have them on their mascots. They're just riding horses with the team's logos on them, medieval times style. And yeah, it's gonna take a few rounds here. Sean McDermott thinks he's sneaky a few times.
Take a few rounds, you say?
That was a stretch. Don't hit it again.
A stretch, you say.
Oh, damn it.
He asked you not to hit it again. So there
Salah's
was-
got the weight to get a little more momentum. So he's able to move quicker. He's moving down the I don't know what you call it, as a runway,
it is for a
a
plane.
column.
We're gonna have to use a runway for a plane. There's no doubt
But
about it.
he builds up a little more momentum. He's able to strike quicker.
You're talking about this guy.
I think
Yes.
Salah ends up overcoming because just like Osama bin Laden's 9/11 Al Qaeda terrorist plot, in the long run it didn't really pay off for them. So
Depends on what your initiative was.
So
I don't
with
think it really
that-
paid off for them. So it paid off for somebody, but not them. And so that means
Well, yeah, that's true.
Robert
That's
Saleh
true.
wins, which means Robert Saleh gets to move on.
Robert Saleh, congratulations! You are now in the winners.
Sean
bracket.
McDermott, you do not pass go, do not collect 200 virgins.
But you do get to try again.
In the losers bracket. May the matchups be in your favor next time. But this time we have concluded. I believe, depending on this series, may depend what I present next week for the Fight Club. As we go through the seedings, the pairings, and all that good stuff. I already forgot how we did it last year. I mean, I know that we had a bracket I just don't remember how we did the seedings on that bracket.
We ended up just scrapping the bracket, and then we just voted basically between the three of us. We gave like the winners 1 through 8 and the losers 9 through 16 or whatever it was, or 1 through 4.
That's right.
Yeah. That's how we
So
did
we'll probably that's probably how we're gonna have to do it again.
It's fine. We can make that a live event.
Yeah, we can do that to preview the fights. So you know what? That would be on the docket for next week. We will vote on who gets the number 1 overall seed, who is the last seed, and yeah, we'll see what happens next up. But I'm gonna pass this rock off now to Patrick. I'm
going to executively decide to cut us off short this week because I think all three of us want to watch this game. So I think we got through the things we needed to get through, and I think we can watch the finals. We'll be back next week with a longer episode.
It still ended on the bull video.
Okay, yeah, we'll do this last little bit because this is not safe for work. I don't know if y'all, Caesar, I don't know if you've seen this yet or not.
I've seen it.
Okay.
It's wild.
We'll end on this.
No steal today.
That lady was seen at brunch the next day, so she is the real champion.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like it hurts like hell, but you'll be all right. As long as it doesn't come back.
Depends on how that bull hits you, I guess.
The comeback.
It didn't have as bigger.
Yeah, the comeback to finish you is where you got to be really concerned. But all right, guys, let's wrap.
Let's go, Mavs!
Have fun. I'll talk to y'all next week.
See you next week.
This is Past the Rock.